Welcome back, everybody. Today is Friday, and it is a fresh league start day. That's right, everybody is scrambling to get ready to get online, sitting in massive queues, and you're looking for a league starter at the very end down by the wire. Well, look no further, because this one is going to be the easiest starter for you, especially if you're new to PoE. Now, Melee, of course, is the flavor of the league, as it had the largest set of buffs more than anything we've ever seen for quite some time. Now, normally I don't play Melee. I'm mostly a minion player or a ranger player. The thing is, though, I definitely want to give it a shot. So I looked around to see what kind of builds were available and what other content creators were in fact cooking up. I saw Steel Mages, I saw a couple that Ziz made, but I fell in love with one in particular, and that was with a content creator named Exiled Cat. If you haven't seen his stuff, his channel is in the description down below. Now, he made a league starter for Sweep. Yeah. We're going to throw that ass in a circle. It's very simple, basically. What I liked about it the most is you press one button, you swing that thing in a circle around your head, and everything goes kaboom on your screen. And the better part is we can then do other things to increase the physical damage as well as increase the area of effect and move on from there. So honestly, this is the build for me. It's one button, you go fast, everything pops. Easy. I'm not sitting there doing a couple of keys with war cries, playing piano, none of that stuff. So let's jump into Path of Building, and I'll show you what he cooked up. Now, if you've never seen Path of Building before, don't freak out. It's just a lot of numbers. It's more of everything that's shown off in the actual game in just a spreadsheet format, so we'll go over this pretty quickly. The great thing about playing a duelist and then playing a slayer and going for sweep are very specific things. Not only is it easy to play because you're not pressing multiple buttons, but you have a huge amount of leech available to you. You do get impale. You also get endurance charges, which can also increase your resistances, so it makes things easier to gear. And speaking of gear, it's not that difficult to do. What you have is to focus on things like just health, resistance for chaos and elemental, physical damage, and accuracy. You're pretty much done. Nice and easy. Now, a couple of things to point out really quickly. If you want access to this POB, it's going to be in the description down below. You can click that and go there. It'll give you like a nice little web page of the kind of items and equipment you have and also the skills as well. So the thing is, though, some people may scoff at this build and say, ugh, 2 million DPS? That's terrible. Imagine saying anything in the millions is terrible. Yes, this is not going to be the biggest and highest dealing damage build in the game. You're not going to have 80 bajillion DPS per one swing. However, though, you are going to be able to clear all 4 void stones. And then if you want to juice this bad boy up later, you totally can. I'm a really cheap PoE player, so for me, investing into a lot of currency is kind of what I don't like to do. I kind of like builds where you just duct tape things together, have them work in a really weird, quirky way, and then kind of like move along that way. The cheaper, the better, in my opinion. So if you are a solo self-found player, or you don't really like trade, or you just kind of want to craft yourself and see what you can do, you'll be fine with this build. Now, your effective hit pool is going to be in around the 36,000 to 40,000 HP. You can definitely increase that if you want to with other kinds of items and things like that, and you can definitely change this later on. Exiled Cat did make a build guide for level 100 with quite a bit of currency dumped into it as well, which is honestly really nice. But let's go over a couple of things here as well. You are going to be resistance capped, which is going to be great to see. Chaos res is going to be the only thing you might have to worry about. You could fix that with a couple of rings and even some other kind of enchantments, but just be aware of that, okay? So you won't be able to take a Shaper Slam directly or any other kind of like major chaos damage. Just be aware of that. And one of the big things that I really want to point out is going to be precise technique. Now, you are going to get 40% more attack damage if your accuracy rating is higher than the maximum life and you never deal critical strikes. So don't try to sit there and stack crit when you pick up precise technique. What you want to stack is accuracy, because your flat damage is going to be hitting a lot harder than even trying to crit. So just be aware of that. In terms of your ascendancy, we're going to be picking the Slayer. Now, we are going to want to get Bane of Legends when we do our actual labs. 10% more damage if you've already killed recently, which is always a nice thing. A little bump in DPS is good. You cannot take reflected physical damage. This is huge because reflect can really hurt you. So you can just alchemy and go on a lot of maps and not have to worry about reflect. On top of that, 20% more damage with hits and ailments against unique enemies, which is really good to see. Headsman is going to be important as well. You can kill enemies that have 20% or lower life if they're hit by your skills. 10% increased attack speed for 20 seconds when you kill a rare or unique enemy, 10% increased movement speed for 20 seconds when you kill an enemy. So you are going to be moving rather quickly throughout the maps and going through pretty much nice and easy. Now on the right hand side, impact is going to be very specific because when we pick precise technique, we want our accuracy to be above our health pool to get that increase in damage, but impact gives us 50% more global accuracy rating. That's always a good thing. 0.4 meters increase melee strike range, always very nice. 5% increase area of effect per enemy killed recently, up to 50%. So your normal AoE will be pretty good sized, but once you start cranking out and start getting around 10 enemies that you just took down, you've increased your AoE by 50%, giving you more clear speed, giving you faster movement, getting you through that map quicker to then get more currency, to then increase your gear and get better. This is just going to be a great way of one buttoning the entire screen, going bonk, and everything else pops. Really nice. And you can deal 15% more melee damage to enemies based on your proximity. Now, finally, the good thing is going to be sustained for this build because you are going to get 100% maximum recovery per life leech, which is going to be great. On top of that, life leech effects are not removed when unreserved life is filled. This is some really good verbiage you guys might have to learn when you're playing PoE. What that means is if you are at max capacity for your HP, the leech effect does not fall off. It continues. So if you get chunked really hard by a good crit or anything else in terms of damage, or shotgunned a little bit too much, if you still have your leech available and you're still striking and hitting, any of that health that you are leeching as you are at full HP is going to stay there. So you won't get at least somewhat one shot multiple times. It's going to happen, but it's not going to be as often as other builds in other places. And of course, you're also going to take 10% reduced damage while leeching. Now, here's a big thing that people like to fall into in terms of traps, especially when they're playing PoE for the first time or an ARPG for the first time. Defense wins games. You want to cap your resistances, you want to create any sort of sustainability for your character, and you want to make sure you increase your health pool. Those are the big ones you want to look for. Damage is always a nice thing, but you can't do DPS and you cannot damage if you have to resurrect at the town. See how that works? So here on the actual skill tree, I have made some slight changes. I added an extra endurance charge and I did a couple of other minor things as well. It's set for level 92, so you're not going to be having to struggle trying to get additional points near the end game. Now, Exiled Cat did make another build, which I have not adjusted or looked at yet, that does go into level 100 with much better gear at the end game and just increasing quite a bit, which gives him some really good DPS overall. However, though, that build does require you to do some respecking and getting more into the ranger territory for ailment immunity and some other things as well. I would not recommend this build for hardcore. This is more of a softcore kind of build. Now, just another quick thing. I'm not a Path of Exile build guide. I don't pretend to make builds. That's why I'm using Exiled Cat build. But what I do like to do is take a few things, maybe modify some things or get ideas from other theory crafters and then put them together. But I feel like Exiled Cat's build for sweep is pretty solid, very inexpensive, and easy to use. But with that being said, let's jump into our skills and items. Now, skills are going to be pretty much very simple to do. You're going to want Impale, Brutality, Pulverize, Fortify, Multi-Strike, and Sweep. So these are going to be the great things. You're going to want Sweep as your main ability, and then everything else is going to be listed as a support gem for your Sync's Link Axe. Now, in terms of your helmet, you're going to want Determination, Pride, Blood and Sand, and Herald of Purity. This way you have enough auras available to you to keep yourself sustained and anything along that nature. Now, Precision is going to be combined with Arrogance. So you want to support any non-blessing skill with a reservation, and then that way you have increased accuracy. We don't really care about the critical strike chance because we're not going to need that because of our actual notable passive, but we want that accuracy rating to increase that directly. With those two skills being linked for Arrogance and Precision, you're going to want a single socket for Vulnerability and a single socket for Blood Rage. On your boots, you can have Leap Slam with faster attacks, Frost Blink, and life taps. Now for your chest, you could do a couple of things. You could add Molten Shell with cast when damage is taken. You could add something like Corrupted Blood as well, since this almost feels kind of like a Pathfinder in a melee stance, where you're always having that additional level of security and safety with that skill on top of that, so you don't get chunked down and just basically die out of just a random one-shot. And finally, you definitely want to add Enduring Cry and Urgent Orders. Now, the reason why you want to have Enduring Cry and Urgent Orders linked together is I know I talked about not having any war cries or anything like that, but when you get to a boss, you can go into Blood Stance rather than actually Sand Stance. Here's a big reason why. When you're at Blood Stance, you gain increased attack damage, and then when you're in Sand Stance, you get increased area of effect. So just be aware of that. One's for mapping, one's for bossing. Just be aware. You can then get those endurance charges, which increase your damage and also resistance. You can go through and just multi-strike and double tap the boss if you want to. And honestly, that's pretty much it. It seems like a really easy build. Items are very simple and easy to do. You went with the Despot Axe, which is just very simple. Quality plus 20, increased physical damage added, increased attack speed, accuracy, and chance to deal double damage. And then you've got other things too, like mana reservation, chance to suppress spell damage, armor, max life, resistance. That's really much what you're going to be looking for. Armor, max life, resistance, HP. You do that on your equipment, you then put anything to increase double damage or multi-strikes on your weapon, and you're basically just walking through the entire game having no issues. You can then increase this quite a bit if you need to with any other better items and things like that or enchantments, and then just go from there when you have the right currency for it. But you will get through tier 16s and even your 4 Void Stones with this kind of build. Now, there are 2 uniques, but they are not required, but they will increase your DPS and help you out quite a bit. Getting a Carnage Heart Onyx Amulet with the implicit of getting Disciple of the Unyielding grants you that extra endurance charge, which is really nice without having to path all the way down to it. Plus 16 all attributes, which is great implicit as well. 30% all attributes inside the actual stats. 15 elemental resistances because it's an easy bonus. 1.6% of physical damage leached as life, which is really nice. 35% increased damage while leeching, which is great. So if you're always leeching and it's unreserved and it's never taken away, you just got a free damage bonus on top of that. And 50% increased life leached per second and extra gore. The extra gore is always a nice thing. Now, again, it's not required, but damn, this one will definitely carry you for quite a bit, especially once you start getting into T17s. Now, the other unique that you definitely want to pick up, but again, it's not required, is the Lion's Roar. Whenever it's active, it's going to basically knock back enemies that are near you, giving you a bunch of breathing room and space so you can then sweep them out into oblivion. You also get a 9% increased physical damage during the actual effect. So keeping this flask up and active is always a great thing, and you can just mix everything else with that as well. So you can have Flask of the Tortoise for increased armor. You can then have increased duration of attack speed. You can then also just increase your evasion as well for some defenses and add anything else that you want here on top of that. Now, you can get a Crimson Jewel for 4% increased attack speed and 6% increased maximum life. And these are really basic items. Like, these are items that people normally sneeze at, and you're doing over 2 million DPS and you're clearing all 4 Void Stones. So it's definitely a good SSF build. It's a great way to start getting into melee, and I think it's going to be one of the easier builds to pick up and play comparative to what other people are doing. So that is it. That is the class and ascendancy that I'm going to be playing at 3.25. I'll give you guys updates as I'm clearing the campaign and also getting into maps and seeing how things are going. I'm also going to be doing an Atlas build guide as well later on for the channel, so keep an eye out for that. But let me know what you guys are going to be playing for your League Starter in 3.25. Are you going to go with a sweep, pick something else, do a ground slam, do lightning strike, do anything else? Let me know. I definitely want to see what your thoughts are, and definitely go ahead and have a great time today. League Starter's always a ton of fun, and I can't wait to get in. Now, if you want to see more of this kind of content, more stuff with ARPGs, more build guides, more news in general, and stuff with every other ARPG in the genre, subscribe to the channel. We just broke 1,000 subscribers. I just want to say thank you guys for that very much. It really does mean a lot to see this channel grow the way it has. With all that being said, though, thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you have a great one, and I'll see you next time.